Watching Worldview Tube, a Brannon House television network.
The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hey everybody, welcome. I am Tamara Scott. Welcome to the Tamara Scott Show. To the gentlemen in the production crew, I'm not seeing any of the monitors, so we're flying blind here, but I see myself in the little monitor, so hopefully that is correct. Everything's going okay. You can let me know if it's not. To everybody else out there, we thank you for joining us. We are live. We don't get a chance to retape or to edit a tape. We're live and you see it right as it happens. We thank you for joining us every Monday through Friday on this network, wvwtv.com, wvwtv.com. And I appreciate Dan Eastman, the financial show that's on right before us. I catch the tail end of it every day when I'm getting ready to come on and just good information for you. As is, I think most programs on this show, I don't get a chance to listen to them all, but if you subscribe to the worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube.com/vault, V-A-U-L-T, then you get access not only to our shows after they're through that grace period. For 7 days, you can get our show, share it with friends, complimentary. But then after that 7-day period, it goes to the paywall, behind the paywall, to help fund the network. And I'm happy we can help do that. It's a great opportunity for you. You get all of Brandon's information, his documentaries, his speeches, a lot of his just resources available to you. So a great deal for you as well. All right. So as you know, we help you live God's word in today's world when the headlines hit home. We're always hopeful that we can help you in that area. We try not to get caught up in the headlines, but I am going to say this. A lot of great circulation on social media about revivals taking place across the globe, as well as right here in our states. I hope these are accurate. I hope this is the case. And I pray that it's happening. And I hear now one may be coming to Des Moines as well. So hope that's happening in your state. If it's not, maybe you can contact one of those folks and see what you can do to help bring it to a stadium near you. All of us can use prayer. Following up on yesterday's conversation, we had Dr. Molly James here. She joins us every fourth Monday. We were talking about insurance, healthcare, the increase of both in cost, and the causes of that. And one of our friends of the show said, I'm listening in. Dr. Molly James is right on. I experienced a similar cardiac test that I was told around $7,000 when I checked for the estimate. But they were giving me the wrong price for the test because they know the CPT, they don't know the CPT codes correctly. I finally got them after 8 phone calls to give me the correct price, $585 for self-pay. What a savings. And she says, I actually ended up at another facility, $100 less. It was called a good faith estimate. The estimate said that the federal regulations mandated, which I believe is true. We do get to share our medical bills at Samaritan Ministry, one of the original 7 organizations that were designated as an alternative to the required insurance under Obamacare. And there's also Blue Book Healthcare, but you have to pay to subscribe, usually like for places like Samaritan Ministries. Not sure if individuals can afford it. I will say, and that keeps going up a little bit from what I understand, or there are other little costs in there I'm hearing from people who participate in that Samaritan Ministries. And you also share in others' fees. You send the checks, or I think now you do it online, to those people who are also part of the process. So it's not that it's free, and some people may not be able to afford it, but it is a great alternative. So Carla, thank you for listening, for watching, and for sending us your comments on that. All right, today, and anybody else, if you want to do that, please feel free. We want to hear from you all the time and we're always glad you're listening. So today I have joining me Nancy White. We're going to be talking about something called BESS, BESS. Now, when she brought this up, and I was glad to meet her through Rhonda Miller, one of our other guests on this show, I wasn't sure what it was. Battery energy storage systems. So we're going to talk with her and we'll bring her on. Who is Nancy White? Well, if you ask her, she'll tell you she's a wife, a mother, a homeschool teacher. She also is a tireless advocate and activist for the causes of energy independence in Texas, the security of our electric grid. Her efforts have made numerous headlines in local, state, and national media. She speaks out frequently concerning the security of our infrastructure, as well as the transparency on what we are spending as taxpayers toward renewables and best technology. Very crucial. As you know, Congressman King has come on the show and talked about the billions going to the CO2 pipeline companies, which is the only reason, many believe the only reason, so many of these companies are wanting a piece of it because it's guaranteed money back to them at your expense. All right, Nancy White, thank you for joining me today.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Glad to have you. Now, Thomas, I'm just going to say I'm still not seeing her or our clocks or anything else. So I'm flying blind, and we always know what a task that is and a challenge for me when I have good instruments. So we'll see what I can do here as I'm flying blind. All right. So Nancy, here's what I thought today. You brought a whole new subject to me. I tell our viewers this is my classroom. I learn along with them. Have a pencil and pen ready, or be ready to type on your device for whatever it is that people take their notes on. For me, I'm a pencil and pen person. All right, so here's what I thought today. Tell me if this works. That we'd first discuss what is BESS, then we'd go over your letter to MJT, Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTJ, Marjorie Taylor Greene, your letter to Austin, Secretary Austin, Lloyd Austin, and then your call for your action, what you're asking in the letter to him, as well as your executive order from Abbott. Does that sound like a good course of action for you?
That sounds like a great course of action. It covers all the areas.
All right, let's see if we can get to it. Let's first go to BESS. What is BESS? And I asked my crack research team, which is also the friends of this show, and several of them responded back with one of the articles out of Germany, I believe it is, and a BESS that they're working on there. Tell us what it is.
So in short, it's a backup power source for the grid during times of strain, such as one of the biggest go-tos is Winter Storm Uri gets brought up a lot, but really it's to fix the failures of it's a band-aid for renewable energy, basically for solar and wind, because they can't produce the correct amount of inertia, and so it doesn't offset what the grid needs. So this is to step in and basically put a band-aid on that and fill that gap for usually about 2 hours. It only provides about 2 hours of additional energy. It's like 100 megawatt side is roughly 1.9 hours of additional energy for about 150,000 pounds of lithium. So if you think of a tiny battery and then take that lithium size and make that 150,000 pounds, roughly 40 something acres, for the smallest size being 100 megawatt, which again is the 1.9 hours. And it is a mouthful, but it's essentially just to fill in during times of strain to keep it from complete collapse, because if the grid collapses, it's not a quick fix. You're looking at weeks, months, and a long time period without power if it actually does.
Various community, a number of households, short term, when the electric grid may go down, because it's not sustainable in itself. When I was reading this about the Minnesota group, a renewable energy company headquartered in Miami with an additional office in Minneapolis, proposing a 150 megawatt battery energy storage system to be constructed off a U.S. Highway 65 south of Glenville. There's concerns here because it's close to a river as well. And if we have time, I'd love to take you through that one. But they say that, well, there's just so many questions here. But
yes.
One, there's concerns about lithium. Does this involve lithium, and is lithium combustible? We hear about, you get on the plane and they ask if you have a lithium battery in your case.
Yes, very much so. So lithium is very reactive. Even in the processing of lithium, you have a high probability, especially with open pit mining, for contamination of air and water. It is a toxin in and of itself naturally. And the amount of raw material you need to create the batteries is also substantial. But whenever they are exposed to oxygen, air, or to water, they begin to release toxic gases like carbon monoxide, hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen cyanide, and even in some ways creates arsenic. So it creates at least 7 different types of toxic gases that the proximity can impact. There's lab reports on water being impacted in California, in Monterey Bay, which is also the Solid Bowl of America right there, was impacted in that region by the toxins. They found lithium, arsenic, and barium in their water, in their soil, and people tested positive for lithium poisoning even in their blood. It also affects livestock. So if you're a rancher, or you do any cattle or livestock, you know that typically stillbirths are equated or aligned with environmental impacts, not genetics. And so Fredericktown, Missouri had their big fire, lithium. It was a lithium processing plant. And that one caught fire October 31st, 2024. And then also Monterey Bay in California, that one caught fire in January of 2025. And both of those locations ended up having instances of livestock with high amounts of stillbirth animals. That is not normal. So not only does it impact our water, our land, our air, it impacts us as people, and anything within its vicinity. It can cause toxins of that regard. And it's very reactive if it's exposed to water, moisture, anything like that. So water, air, anything like that can cause it to react. So even the air we breathe can become a problem at that point. It's exposed.
Which didn't make sense to me. And I want to get to those letters, as I said, but in this article in Minneapolis, one of the individuals promoting this said that first off, they're going to work through the federal code to make sure that the fire and safety is in check, and that they would work with the local fire department to make sure they could manage it. Well, here's my question. How can they manage it? Because I hear you can't use water on these fires. And so now are you asking this fire department to spend taxpayer money to find some new way to counter these fires, some new chemical, what is it if it's not water that you fight these fires with? And that's going to go back onto the taxpayers again. I'll let you sit on that during break, because we've got to go to our first commercial break right here, and then when we come back we can answer that, and then I want to get to the letters as we said we would. But I just there's a lot. It sounds like there's a lot of safety issues here, and then we'll get into national security risks as well. Stay tuned. My guest is Nancy White. We're talking about battery energy storage systems and whether or not they're really a good idea, safe, security risk, or even worth the money, the trouble. Stay tuned.
Two years ago, whatever was 100% of my traffic to my website, it's been crashed by 95%. That's stunning to me. Mostly Google has done it, but other actors as well. What's happening on a global basis, there's a war against free speech. It's not just an incidental thing, oh, we just want to shut somebody up. That's not it. This is an orchestrated, top-down war against free speech. All the things you have coming out of Worldview Tube and Weekend, etc., all of these things are expression of free speech. And I can dare say that their traffic has been hammered as well. If they're successful, these masters of tyranny, if these people are successful shutting down free speech, we're all dead at that point, basically, because that's where the killing is going to start. This is what's on the chopping block right now. The reason you look at this organization just is because you could get something out of it, right? You should look at this organization as an organization that needs to support just to keep free speech alive, period. Who are you going to turn to at this point if this voice was silenced? Where would you go? Newsmax? Give me a break. No. Fox News? No. So I want to encourage you, support the foundation, support Brandon's work here any way that you can.
I so appreciate Patrick Wood's message on Worldview Foundation, crucial in helping us get information. All right, we always offer you our Bella Grace. This is the little elixir in this slender little sachet. Looks like a pretty little beauty product in a pretty little package, and it is, but it's so much more. It's a serious health supplement. The collagen, the astaxanthin, the cat's claw together in 2022 got an award for cognitive function. In 2023 got an award in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. You can find more information at Tamara, Tamara, BellaGraceGlobal.com. Tamara, TAMARA.BellaGraceGlobal.com. Don't forget the dot in between there. Tamara.BellaGraceGlobal.com. There you can find information on this little elixir, before and after photos, informational videos, as well as their other products like the incredible skincare system, which I do love. I don't even know if it helps with wrinkles or what I'd look like if I didn't use it. I do like the way it feels on my face and the way my skin feels the rest of the day when I do use it. And the beauty of it, it all comes to my house. I don't have to go to the store. A big plus for me. I do not like having to get to the store, get a list, remember what I need. This is so much more convenient. When you go to Tamara, TAMARA.BellaGraceGlobal.com, why would you? Here's what some of you noticed. I mean, we talked about the cognitive function, but here's what some of you noticed. These are our friends with this show. You noticed better joint health, improved mobility, improved immunity, stress management, endurance, less fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health, all being improved. You also, some of you noticed less eye strain and fatigue, computer vision syndrome being alleviated, enhanced visual acuity, depth perception, helping with dry eyes. I noticed that, but I didn't put it together until talking with some of you. I had been wondering what I had changed that had made it better. My eyes used to water terribly. I'll tell you what else it helps with. When I get stung, and I do, I don't swell nearly like I used to. I don't know what it is in this product that helps me with it. There's the fun facts. Some of you have noticed firmer, smoother skin texture, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, decreased age spot, more even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduced oxidative stress, healthier nails, better hair, or better sleep and hair health, and less cellulite. Okay, call those cosmetic if you want. I think they're fun. Who doesn't want to feel better? Who doesn't want to look better? Maybe they're byproducts of being healthier. More information, Tamara.BellaGraceGlobal.com. All right, we're talking with Nancy White. Nancy, I kind of just led you off the path in which I promised you we were going to go when I was asking, what is this local fire department going to do if you can't use water on these fires? Is that just that much more that's going to cost the taxpayers and them having to get whatever it is to fight these types of fires?
In my opinion, it's worse, actually. So our fire department did get the training, and the training pretty much consisted of, don't worry, it'll take care of itself. We let it burn. Their job, they basically told the fire chief, their job is to show up to the site, wait outside the gates, and wait for the professionals and not let anybody else enter. That's their training.
No hazard there,
and
right?
There is no. I mean, especially because, like, for where we live, the professionals are going to be hazmat, and the professionals where we live are at least 90 miles away, meaning our fire personnel are standing outside that gate exposed for over 90 minutes with no protective gear, waiting for hazmat to show up and tell them to evacuate.
And the plus of this in this same article is that it will help 100,000 households for 4 hours. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, I suppose if that's your household, yes, that's a help. But how much are we? I'd like to know the cost ratio here. The cost, the land usage, are they taking ag away? Because it seems like these are never in industrial areas where maybe a rundown part of the community needs refurbished anyway. No, it's always out in the ag areas where we take the food production away that we critically need. Where is it usually that you've found?
It's unincorporated rural areas. So Texas is going to be surpassing California by 2026, I believe is the thing, if not by the end of this year, with 3 million acres projected of use for solar, wind, and batteries. 3 million acres of agricultural land that is in unincorporated rural areas, because cities they have zoning and permits and restrictions that they can enforce. unincorporated rural areas do not have those same laws and steps in place. And so it makes the process a lot easier for them. So they're targeting ag land, which, let's face it, in Texas, it's not the first group that's targeted our agricultural land. They just found that it was easiest to do so. And actually, our comptroller, Hager, here in Texas, he's been quoted stating that in an article that it's being done this way because there's less restrictions and permits required, and also the land's available, and we're a business-friendly state. So that's why we're seeing the masses that we are in those areas that are removing that land from ever potentially really being used for agricultural purposes ever again. And I've actually heard Peregrine Energy in one of their meetings in Lindell that I was at, they actually stated that it would never be agricultural land again. So they acknowledged that they were removing that from ag land for farmers, for food.
Let me just say it one more time. My daughter used to come home when she was in the public school with these little t-shirts and big fundraising programs. We were all supposed to buy whatever they were selling to send money to save the rainforest. And I would say, when are we going to save the farmland here in America? That was 25, 30 years ago. All right, so let's get you to the project you're talking about in Texas is a Van Zandt County project. There is a restraining order against it. Now, you want to go to your letter first? You want to give us a little background there?
For context, that restraining order is specifically on the batteries. So the threat itself is the batteries because of what they contain and the reactive nature of them. So as of right now, we have a restraining order against them that if they meet state standard or state fire standards and codes, then it moves forward. As of today, they have yet to provide evidence that they are meeting those state standards and codes, and that's why the temporary restraining order. And that has to do with the being in a remote location, because where they sit is directly on top of a federal pipeline, was where they're trying to build. That is over, I think it's over 1,600 miles. It's from the coast all the way up to Hammond, Indiana. And then there's also two major water sources in that location, one of which is Cedar Creek Lake, which was right at a quarter mile from it, that actually impacts 1.2 to 7 million people. It's where Tarrant County gets their water. If you're not from Texas, that's Fort Worth, Texas. That's where it sits. And additionally, underneath that is the Carrizo-Wilcox Aquifer, which spans 66 counties that would be impacted in the subterranean as well. So we want to ensure that this is being done safely and that this is the right location. And right now they haven't been able to prove that, which is why the temporary restraining order. But when we go to the letters, you'll see that it's more than just those factors that I'm concerned with.
All right, let's go. Thomas, I gave you the link to a couple different Facebook posts. Let's go first to the letter to Marjorie Taylor Greene, if we can. And I don't know if you can zoom in a little bit for people to see this a little bit better. First, let's talk about this. So the concern here, beyond everything we've just talked about, water sources, the water table, the risk of lithium, possible fire, possible, I don't know, is explosion, is it fair to say explosion is an issue?
Yes, they do explode, yes.
Okay. All right. Chinese manufactured components. Now, we just saw in some of our other plants of sorts that there were apparently kill switches or controlling switches that could be remotely managed, and they were from Chinese manufacturers. What is the alarm here? We see Chinese, there are components that are manufactured by Chinese companies.
It's not just the Chinese companies, it's the CCP military.
Ah, okay. All right. All right. So talk to us about who is CATL. Talk to us about who is CATL.
So CATL CATL is a Chinese company that's creating the battery cells, and they also create inverters and sensors. And they are leading the market. Matter of fact, in the Supreme Court hearing that you also see in there that I mentioned, they specifically mentioned CATL as well as a national security threat. And they state that what they're doing is they're going in and they're basically getting into our critical infrastructure this way. And CATL, they recognize them as a CCP military company. So it's not just like they're just China. They are specifically aligned with an enemy of the United States, which is why they're listed as a national security threat, because obviously the Communist Chinese Party is not a friendly to the United States. And CATL, it's specifically Contemporary Amprex, is leading the market on the battery cells by over 85%. I think it's like closer to 90% of the batteries are built with their components.
And you mentioned that there is a protection against the critical infrastructure protection, which would be addresses foreign components. Is that a federal regulation, a state, or local?
So it's actually NERC's standard, which is it's an actual standard created by the National Energy Reliance Commission. So, and that's one that, for instance, in Texas, we follow those SIP standards. We have adopted them as ones to follow nationally, and Texas has taken those on. And so it's SIP standard 10 is what you're talking about, the CIP 10. And that one specifically says no foreign components into our critical infrastructure. And obviously we wouldn't want a foreign enemy that has already done a cyber attack on our infrastructure and grid under Volt Typhoon to have a front door or even a key directly into that critical infrastructure.
Okay. And then as you're talking about, there's further risk here with military bases. And you talked about fusing the CCP into, was it into our military or our cybersecurity? Am I getting ahead of myself? Is that in the other letter?
No. You're right. So basically what you're talking about, that's the 2023 congressional letter. Senator Marco Rubio and 26 other Congress members actually signed off on a letter of acknowledgement at Lake Lejeune military base. They learned that there was a national security risk because they had Duke Energy battery energy storage system on site, and they learned it was communicating back to China. And that is where they do test runs for should there be a problem with Taiwan type situation. And so they labeled that in that letter, they list that as a national security threat to our government because of Duke Energy's evidence found there. And that's the what you're talking about. So in that, they were removed from all military bases. They're not allowed to be on military bases. However, we're allowing more than 1,400 of them in our Texas grid alone. So we're already giving them access, even if it's not on a military base, we're giving them access into the infrastructure itself, which is still another way for them to get into those areas, if you will.
All right. We've got to go to our second break. This is flying by. Oh my goodness. We'll be right back. Nancy White talking to us about battery energy storage systems, national security risks, and what we need to know about it, so what we can possibly do about it. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, one of the other products we offer for you, because everyone responds differently, plus you have preferences in what you like to take. This is called Neumi. You can go to neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS. These are what they call NutraSwish. I call them swish and swallows. You can swish them for 3 seconds, 30 seconds, 3 minutes, whatever you're comfortable, and then swallow. It's that simple. Take it on the run. The lavender's for ladies. Use it at any time along your journey, and it is to help you. There are no hormonal supplements, though you might want to check with your doctor if you're taking some. The blue, as you see in the photo there, is the it has the glyphosate. Glyphosate. No, glutathione. My G words. Glutathione is something you need in your body. You would not survive 3 to 7 minutes without it if you're oxygen-based, which we are. It's an antioxidant. It helps with 400 cellular functions, but best of all, it helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, one of those chemicals that we learned about 5 years ago in injections. Also, it detoxes the glyphosate. That is a concerning chemical that some are learning are in ag products. If we said the name, you'd know it exactly. And there are concerns about links to cancers, HPVs, and diabetes. So that blue, for anybody over 18, helps detox the glyphosate, graphene oxide, heavy metals, forever chemicals, because of the good glutathione in it. Now, when used with the orange bottle or the mango-colored bottle, that Neuro is to help with mind, memory, and focus. After a virus or a vaccine, whatever it may be, folks were concerned about brain fog. This product is to help with the mind, memory, and focus, and when used with the blue bottle, the results were so good that the American Brain Council actually wrote something so positive it looks like an endorsement, though I'm told they don't do endorsements. But this is very, very positive, and I hear it just never happens. So that's the blue and the mango together. Then you see their skin product there as well. More information in UMI.com/TTSS, because we want you feeling your best. And when you use that link, you help us as well. Nancy White is my guest today. We're talking about battery energy storage systems, which I knew little about. And so, Nancy, go ahead and talk to us. Part of this letter that you have written to Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about Trump and his recent mandate requiring all projects to be vetted through Doug Burgum. I appreciate that he's prohibiting Chinese components. I appreciate that. Doug Burgum's a bit of a concern for me because he was pro CO2 pipeline, and that would have eaten up a lot of ag and had its own safety issues, and people would tell you it's a green scheme and totally unnecessary. Where's he at on this issue?
That I honestly don't know. I'm hoping that by sending this, it will activate him to pay attention to it. There's been a lot of talk of solar and wind, but it seems that battery may be slipping through some of the cracks, and I just want to make sure that they're not missed, because Reuters didn't just cover the solar weaknesses, they covered the batteries as well. And I know that I actually have talked to Joe Wise, I mentioned in there multiple times, and he has explained the failures that are occurring. But the big beautiful bill didn't remove the funding. And you mentioned earlier about the CO2 pipeline, and they probably wouldn't stay afloat without the funding. And that's the same for the solar and the wind. And quite frankly, the way I see it is if a company is doing their job correctly, they shouldn't need the American taxpayers to fix it or subsidize it for them. They should be doing their job. And so I don't know where Doug stands, but that's why I sent the letters to try to hope move it in that direction, because I'm not in that circle, unfortunately.
And you're asking for an investigation. You said this demands an immediate federal investigation. So thank you for that. Thank you for your courage. And whether or not Doug Burgum, however he may or may not respond or act, is not our issue. Our issue is our action. But God gives you knowledge, makes you aware. You are called to action. You're not responsible for somebody's inaction or reaction. Responsible for your action. So my thanks to you for putting this letter out there. Let's pop over then to the letter to Secretary Lloyd Austin. Talk to us about this one. What did you hope to accomplish here?
So this one is actually Rubio's letter that he wrote. This is that congressional letter that he signed.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I didn't see that I didn't see that. Maybe I don't see the last page on this post, but all right, we'll go through this. Very good. And so this is from Secretary Rubio. When did he do this? This was
December of 2023. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yep. Good. All right. So he is bringing in the level of CCP, including being linked to Secretary Xi Jinping, who praised CATL's growth in March of 2023. So Rubio seems to get this.
Correct. So this is Rubio. This was the letter that the 26 Congress members and he put together. And here, the things I highlighted, these are his words. These are their words that they put in there, stating in one point that they are aligned right there. You can see it in the yellow, the highest levels of the CCP. They talk about this being a national security threat to our government. They talk on the fact of why it is because of those connections. So in 2023 of December, it was recognized and noted that contemporary Amprex was a national security threat and aligned with CCP military. And since then, they, in the last 2 years, have further moved into our critical infrastructure since then, which, if I'm correct, was the same year that the Volt Typhoon happened, where they hacked our infrastructure and grid through the Volt Typhoon in 2023. So that same year, it was already recognized, and now we've moved along to 2025, and they're further along in those projects and even further deeply integrated into our critical infrastructure since then.
Thomas, if you can go back to that letter, the first page of it, the second paragraph, this is Rubio's letter. He says in the bottom half of that second paragraph, the People's Liberation Army Navy plan, PLAN, may soon power its conventional submarine float with lithium-ion or ion batteries provided by CATL and other Chinese companies. The CCP is well aware of how China's commercial EV industry, and CATL included, benefits its military. Further, Beijing dropped a government safety test from its inspection after CATL rival found that the test showed CATL battery cells exploding, demonstrating its insistence to bolster CATL as a battery champion. That's from Rubio's letter of December 2023. This is concerning. All right. Anything else you want to add on that, Nancy?
On that one, that pretty much just establishes the baseline that it is known that this software is a national security threat. And I have evidence. So what I did not make public is what I have from here in Van Zandt County from the actual build near my home. It states that they are using that battery cell from CATL. It is in their documents.
And he says this CATL could introduce malware into large-scale power storage stations. This is the top paragraph, there you go, of the second page, threatening U.S. energy grid. It talks further about the cyber risks. I would not have thought about that with energy storage. And then he also talks about security limitations that prevent regular updates and gaps in reviewing vulnerabilities, raises several concerns that malicious actors or governments could seek to exploit. And then he also says, there's a second paragraph, that orange highlight, CCP pattern of espionage leaves little room for doubt that CATL produced products pose a threat to national security. And then but I believe somewhere in here said there's a striking similarity to other Chinese firms that have that are deemed serious threats and banned in the U.S. government. So I think that's worth noting. All right, shall we go to these are the 7 points that Rubio is asking for? Did he ever get anywhere with this?
That I don't know. So in a lot of these circumstances, and even with the executive order from Abbott, when we get there, when they get that information back during the studies, that's not often made public, and for a reason. And that's because of the national security threat that's typically aligned with the results found.
All right. This is concerning. Yeah, Thomas, thank you for zooming in on that. For all of our viewers, I've got this on the Tamara Scott Show Facebook page, the Tamara Scott Show Facebook page. You can see the post and all these letters as well. You can always email me at thetamaraScottShow@gmail.com, thetamaraScottShow@gmail.com. All right. Shall we move forward, Nancy, or is there anything else on this particular? So
I don't think on this particular.
Rubio raises a concern that CATL systems are being installed and should not be installed at any point in Department of Defense, National Security Agency facilities or locations. I mean, listen, if we banned governmental officials from using TikTok or having it on their devices, this seems like it would be even more crucial, right? Kind of a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm. It does to me, but
then we're not government. All right. Executive order from Abbott, because this is This is the this is I was gonna I was gonna say, if I'm blonde and I get this, but I make jokes and sometimes that offends other blondes, so whatever. All right, so the Abbott order. What do you want to talk about on this one?
So on this one, I think it's crucial that he acknowledges that the CCP, the People's Republic of China, and the Communist Party state that they will use our critical infrastructure to harm Americans. They state that nobody is exempt from harm, is essentially what they're saying here. And I think that needs to be noted, because I think a lot of time whenever we're looking at this, the security of the grid and the threat from China, a lot of time it's perceived as the boogeyman. It only happens in movies. It's not real. But the thing is it's based in reality somewhere. Every good story has truth to it. And this is something that's been known for about 20 years that China has been working on, and it's becoming more progressive. And the letter goes on to state that they will use it to harm the American people. And I'm pretty much a believer that if China says it, I would believe them type situation. And it does also cover the cybersecurity threat. And so one of the things, and I actually did have something else to add. So as far as the cybersecurity, anything that is 24/7 remotely operated, it's 24/7 looked at and ran, you have availability in there for it to be hacked because it's remotely done. And that's where that opens up. And China doesn't have to hack it if they own the source code.
All right, good word. We have a minute left before we have to go to our break. Anything you want to add on this? I do want to know what other states, this is in several states, it's not just Minnesota. How many other states are possibly using components from CATL or investing in these BESS?
California, Indiana, New York, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri. There's pretty much every single one. 90% of the United States, 90% of the builds in the United States use these components because they have the corner on the market.
Alarming. I'm talking with Nancy White. We're talking about battery energy storage systems, talking about whether or not they're safe on their own, if there's safety risks to the community and the environment around them, talking about whether or not they're taking up ag land that we hear will never be used as ag again. And we're also talking about the national security issue with CCP components. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this message. The Tamara Scott Show.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed.
All right, Thomas, if we could, let's go to that third page of Governor Abbott's resolution, because that's where the therefores are. Every resolution usually has a therefore. He's got 5 points that he wants. Oh, you can't go. It's on the same Facebook post, and you just arrow over to it. It should be available. But Nancy, do you want to comment? Is Abbott on the right direction here? Is he doing enough to stop this, or is it still going? Where is your status of your project in Texas?
Well, I will tell you that he got the results back in January. I have seen them, and again, they're not made public for a reason, and that should say a lot too. I actually met with the governor's team. I believe it was the beginning of April, around the Security of the Grid Day in Austin. And we sat down with them and we told them things that they could do for what they called chump change of a cost to repair some of the situation, which would be for the EMP, the ground induced current portion, which would be 15 million to harden the entire state and protect from, because our standards are not where they should be. But as far as when it comes to batteries, the best thing that the governor should and could do, especially because he controls the Public Utility Commission and by extension ERCOT, which is what our grid is based on, he could do a moratorium to prompt the investigation that we're not using any of these compromised components in our critical infrastructure, and he has not done that. And a lot of the Texas funds, so there's a Texas Fund for Energy, and a lot of that is even gone towards these builds. And I happen to know that ERCOT has 3 failing generators. We're one of the top 3 worst grids in the United States, actually, currently. And they applied to repair 3 of their failing generators, because if those don't work, the batteries can't get energy anyway stored into them because the grid isn't operating. And Public Utility Commission told them, no, build more batteries. So there is a lot that the governor could do, but he's not currently doing, including a moratorium against these builds to be investigated.
So your Public Utility Commission turned down, when he was requesting 3 failing generators, one at least be replaced, and the Utility Commission turned him down. Is your Utility Commission elected or appointed?
They're appointed by our governor.
How many on there?
So Greg Abbott appointed the members sitting on the Public Utility Commission, as well as appointed those members to sit on the ERCOT board. ERCOT recognized that they have 3 failing generators and it would have cost them $54 million to replace. And Public Utility Commission told them no, and those are appointed by the governor.
Wow. We're finding the utility commissions are part of the problem. South Dakota, theirs are elected. They corrected there. They also corrected in their legislature with 14 incumbents being replaced with 14 new Republicans. Iowa has yet to correct theirs. Their utility commission is appointed, but there's correction that needs place when a bill to stop the CO2 pipeline had 78% approval from Iowans. That's across the board, bipartisan. It also falls in line with biblical, constitutional, and Republican platform, frankly, but it had bipartisan support, and it also passed the House. I believe it was 85, somewhere around in there, to out of 100. And in the Senate, it was a tighter fight. Democrats came along with Republicans to protect the rights of the people. Sadly, some Republicans did not, and our governor vetoed it. So we have our own issues. So I'm just saying these public utilities commissions are a great example of unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats who don't necessarily have the best interests of the taxpayer, the liberties of the people in place. All right. This reminds me as well. I don't know if you've studied the EMP, electromagnetic pulses, the dirty bombs. We've done shows on this for years. And I would not know the today inflated cost, but at the time we were studying, it was $2 billion, which Senator Rand Paul said, why are we sending money to countries who hate us when the same amount we send to one country, $2 billion a year, could harden our grid? So you mentioned hardening the grid. I hadn't even thought about it. What a smarter idea than this idea.
I'm very fortunate. I'm sorry.
It's just a smarter use of our money. Go ahead. We've got 3 minutes left, so go ahead.
I was going to say, yes, I have been very fortunate to work with those on EMP. I have been allowed to join in with Security of the Grid and Tommy Waller for Center for Security Policy and help and give my input on that as well. Along with that, Senator Bob Hall is my sitting senator, and he has worked on EMP for a very long time, and I was fortunate to be able to help him get Senate Bill 75 across the line. So I'm very aware of EMP, and there's a lot that needs to be looked into that as well.
Absolutely. All right. So in the last 3 minutes, what do we say to people? I hope that we've given our viewers kind of an overview, a quick overview, if you will, the BESS is battery energy storage systems. Now, some of the folks I talked to on this said that what was being proposed here in Iowa is a little bit different than what's being proposed in Minnesota. But Minnesota, if that article, which is also on our Facebook page, said something about it's going to look like storage containers on these acres. I don't know, maybe I'm older than most, but I remember when the electric lines were just being buried underground, and they would show us a picture in the classroom how much more aesthetically pleasing it was to have all these power lines hidden underground. And yet we're going to come in with all these ugly solar panels, or all these ugly wind turbines, or all these ugly whatever this BESS containers looks like. What happened? Concern about the climate and the aesthetic beauty of the climate, the environment. All right, 2 minutes. Tell us what you want us to know on our way out, Nancy.
Okay. So I think the biggest thing is there are a lot of overlooked critical matters, obviously, from the environment and forward. But additionally, I feel like it should be stated that there's a lot that we also do not know. But what we do know shows that the cons outweigh the pros. I'm not saying that there's not a place for these technologies. Microgrids would work for major cities potentially, but not into critical infrastructure. The way that it sits, the technology isn't ready, and I think that that needs to be reviewed, and we shouldn't be moving forward in projects that don't support the physics of how our grids operate. And solar, wind, or battery add value to our grid in a way that actually makes it functional. We need baseload energy, and that includes nuclear, oil, gas, and coal. And that technology has been advanced far past what it's presumed or perceived to be. So I would like to emphasize, I'm not saying that there's not potential for the use of this technology someday. It's just not today.
At the taxpayer's dollar, when we really don't have a good estimate of the cost, I don't think just one financially, but cost to our security, our safety in the environment, our national security. I think those are all issues that we need to take into consideration of this. All right, anything else? Do you have a way for viewers to contact you if they want more information?
Yes, my email is solutionsforvanzant@gmail.com. Again, that's solutionsforvanzant@gmail.com. Or you can find me on Facebook. It's Nancy White. I'm not hard to find. And reach out. I'll get you my number. We'll talk about it.
All right. Thank you so much for helping us understand some of this. To our viewers, this is our classroom. I hope you learned as much as I did, enough to just give you a little bit to dig further on your own. And as we tell you on this show, we present the information, you weigh it out, you pray it out, decide and discern what your next action is. But I do like what I just remembered when we were talking earlier. You're not responsible for somebody else's inaction or reaction. But when you become aware of something, you are responsible for your own action. So make sure you take some. To everybody out there, we tell you to live boldly, love better, laugh bigger, be encouraged, and never be complacent.